Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And today I want to take a look at War Machine and his new uniform, talking about the build, talking about the skills, and all of the ideas and suggestions and advice that I have for you if you want to make War Machine a new badass in kind of the vein of someone like Winter Soldier with the new uniform upgrade. As per your guys voting in the last video for Scarlet Witch, I think the majority of you said War Machine and mentioned his name, so I am going to be focusing on him today. What's nice about him in comparison to Scarlet Witch is that there is not much to discuss in terms of his skill effects. He has basically none, but it's all about the timing for the skills and the build of the character. And you'll see when having a subpar build versus a maxed out build, the difference is actually quite strong. So it's all in the details for someone like War Machine in terms of what you're going to be giving him. And hopefully, I think with a maxed out build, you could see some pretty impressive, possibly Extreme Alliance battle numbers because of the AoE of his skills, but also World Boss Ultimate past stage 20, which is pretty impressive for someone who could barely clear stage 10 before, and even high level Shadowland. So the text on his skills is basically still non-existent. The only change has been his third skill. It's got an 8-second 8-hit guard, which is nice. But the bigger change is by far his damage output. It's not reflected, or it's difficult to understand and see by just reading the skills. Oh, 114%, 221. Oh, okay. Oh, 122%, 442. There's really not much to glean from that. But once you take him into a stage, and we'll be doing that on 2 different World Boss Ultimate stages, you will see the absolute carnage and wreckage that War Machine brings. Namely, however, for the rotation, I think that a pretty straightforward one would be 5 into 4 into 3, and then possibly either kite if you think you're going to get crowd controlled, or go 2 1 and then back to 3, and then again over to 5 and then 4. The reason for that is that both his 5th skill and his 4th skill have a fairly long cooldown, 7.5 seconds, 9 seconds with max, but his 3rd skill doesn't. It's 10 seconds, which gets pulled down to 5, so that's really good, really easy to work with. So you can kind of stagger it, 5 4 3, etc., 3 5 4 kind of thing. But because of the fact that he's got a long iframe on 4 and 5 and long cooldowns, I think one of the benchmarks you need to hit for War Machine is 50% skill cooldown. I think more than other characters, that is a really important factor to take into consideration. So if you have less than 50%, and I've been playing with him at 35% and at 40%, and I noticed that he was noticeably weaker because when he has to kite for a long time, when he has to absorb a lot of damage, he doesn't have good defense, he doesn't have a lot of HP, and so he gets punished pretty easily. Additionally, I think that because he has only the two iframes and only the guard hit, that guard break immunity would be ideal for his obelisk. I have a horrible obelisk on him right now, so what you're seeing is definitely not a maxed build. I wasn't able to roll a good enough obelisk for him, but it's still quite impressive what I can do with this one. For the ISO 8 set, Hawk's Eye is not ideal, but I couldn't roll another set, and I spent a few million gold. I know I have more, but it's not for him. I would recommend Power of Angry Hulk, actually, because of the attack speed, but you could also go for Overdrive. There's no wrong choice there. Defensively, although I don't recommend going defensive for War Machine at all, you could go for something like Drastic Density to get that bubble, but you don't want to get hit, so I don't think Binary Power would help as much. As far as the uniform, I did use a ticket to get it to Mythic. The optional uniforms are actually all quite good. We have the callback to Punisher, we have Cyclops Age of Apocalypse, Iron Man Infinity War, which I'm sure a lot of you have also built up, so it's got synergy there, Inferno, and Spider-Man Homecoming. So 2 very popular uniforms, a 3rd one that's semi-popular, and then 2 kind of mid-level ones. But overall, I was quite happy with the optional ones, and I used all of these effects to kind of patch up the gaps in his stats. As far as the uniform bonus, I've seen it trigger, and it does pretty mediocre damage. I think it was ticking for about 25,000 hits, 25,000 damage per hit against Corvus, which is pretty low, but that's just kind of what we can expect. I'm going to take you first into the Corvus stage because it's by far the more frustrating level to play. The good thing about War Machine is that because he has a self-buffing leadership like Winter Soldier, you can pair him with 2 support characters. So in this case, I'm going to go with Coulson and Shuri for just maximum damage output. I could also use, instead of Coulson, someone like Wasp to avoid all of the crowd control, because Corvus does bring a lot of crowd control, but we're just going to show you how much complete wreckage he can do. And this is basically without an obelisk, because my obelisk is so poor. It is with a mythic uniform, and the Uru right now I only have 4-star, 2 4-star physical attack on each gear, so a total of 8 4-star. I haven't been able to put, or I haven't chosen to put, either crit rate or crit damage for his other Uru because I'm waiting on an obelisk. But with his rotation, I want to open up with the 5th skill. It does massive damage, but it's a very long skill. It's got a very long animation, even with max attack speed. So you want to be patient and not cancel it, otherwise you're going to lose a ton of the damage. The 4th skill iframe is a little bit shorter, but then we go over to the 3rd. From here against Corvus, I'll just give you a really quick tip. As soon as he enters the center of the arena in the first phase, because there's 2 phases to this fight, you need to get away from him. I recommend running down to this grate and then waiting for the fireballs and then starting to run. He summons a total of 8 of these purple spear circles, and they're exactly like Proxima's, and they will penetrate your iframes and your invincibility and your immunity, and they will frustrate you and they will kill you. I actually switched there because when you unpause the game, there is a bit of a delay between your character beginning to move again, so I just wanted to make sure that War Machine wasn't taking any damage. But you can see that when he gets his 5th skill off, it does a ton of damage, minimum a bar, sometimes much more than that, and it ends up just being a case where you just don't want to take damage with War Machine. There is a bit of a slowdown with his 5th skill. Animation wise, there's a bit of a slow-mo effect when he's first spiraling up. Not too sure what that is, but it is what it is. The other piece of advice I have for you against specifically characters like Corvus is that he has an ability where he jumps back and he has these 3 purple lines. It's this one right here. Unfortunately, War Machine's 5th skill will actually reposition War Machine in front of the enemy. So if you're on the left or on the right, let's say I was dodging one of these attacks, and you engage his 5th skill iframe, he'll actually move into the way of the skill, and he can actually one-shot himself more often than not. I did this on multiple occasions. I'm actually gonna... No, I didn't die. I almost died. I wasn't able to move. I got snared. That's kind of the frustrating part about War Machine, is that he's very susceptible to crowd control. But if you don't get crowd controlled, he's actually amazing as far as the damage goes. It's just he's a little bit fragile compared to some other characters. But you just need to be careful. I'm actually gonna die here. You just need to be careful against those particular skills. I honestly don't think that War Machine is very well suited against Corvus, and I actually played this stage multiple times prior to recording this video, and I found it extremely frustrating to play with War Machine. I think that his skills just don't really mesh well with Corvus, and Corvus is able to iframe through and kind of interrupt Rhodey, but he's also able to punish him, like I said, by forcing him to come into the way of the flame pillars and just straight up one-shot him or two-shot him. To show you, to give you a better example of what I'm talking about as far as not being suited to fighting against Corvus, I'm actually going to take on a much more difficult stage. This is stage 20, Proxima, and I'm going to use the exact same team, and you're going to see that despite the fact that this is several times more difficult, the boss has several million more HP, it's actually a much smoother fight, and the only big AoE, the only big crowd control effect that I have to worry about besides the purple spears is the occasional time freeze. But it's fairly straightforward against Proxima. She doesn't move around nearly as much as Corvus. She doesn't appear to interrupt Rhodey nearly as much, and so it makes it a lot easier. Against these world bosses, I personally prefer not... Wow, I'm getting... This is just really horrible luck. I actually prefer not to use his 1st and 2nd skills, just because I don't want to be stationary any longer than I have to, because of the fact that she summons different skills and she has spears kind of flying around at all times. So I prefer to have the mobility of not locking into a skill. Both his 1st and 2nd skill do have good damage, so you do want to do that if you feel comfortable, if you're in a situation where you can, if you have a 5-second invincibility obelisk or something like that. But I just choose not to because I prefer having the flexibility of moving myself around. And unlike Proxima, the positioning of his 5th skill doesn't really punish him nearly as much. He definitely takes he definitely deals more damage to Proxima than Corvus, because Corvus has that additional reduction against all types except speed, so that is something to note. as a reason for why this is a little bit easier than Corvus' stage, but still, stage 9 versus stage 20 should not be this clear cut in terms of the difference. But the fact that I'm shredding this quite easily, and I'm in a little bit of trouble right now, but the fact that I'm shredding this and I got punished much more against Corvus, I think speaks more to the positioning of the enemy and the way that the skills interact versus anything else. So we're just going to go through the rest of this. One other thing that I noticed against the World Boss Ultimates is that, and I actually don't want to finish this stage because I have the bonus for Corvus, so I do need to switch here or I'm going to die. One other thing that I noticed for the World Bosses now is that it shows you, instead of saying ultimate skill is arriving, it actually says which skill, and I'm not sure if this was changed prior to the Infinity War Part 2, but I just noticed it today when I was playing against the World Bosses. So let me know, like, see, it says Conjuring Pentagram Trap, Toxic Meteorite. It actually tells you which skill is coming. We're going to splash in the 1 and the 2 here, but this is a much easier fight. Even at stage 20, with basically a non-existent Obelisk, War Machine is able to hold his own against Proxima, and definitely I could push probably into the mid-20s with a much better Obelisk. And I have... This is half time, so I have tons of time to spare. Now, of course, having Shuri, having Coulson, having a high Valor is definitely helping me out. Having good physical attack on my cards is also helping me out. But this is pretty huge. He's finishing this fight with tons of time remaining. His damage output is just bananas. And if you build him up enough, that's exactly what you're going to get. And that's why I think building him defensively, giving him max HP or invincibility, while it may suit your playstyle more, I think it kind of betrays. I think he's supposed to be kind of a glass cannon. He's not technically a glass cannon because he has the guard hit that you can cycle every 5 seconds, so it's basically, he can technically be protected all the time because 8 seconds on the 8 guard hit and 5 seconds on the skill, as long as you don't get hit 8 times, in addition to the 2 iframes. But I think maximum damage, maximum fun for War Machine, and that is my kind of final verdict. So let me know what you guys think of War Machine and the new upgrade and the crazy damage output for my roadie. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my content, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.